to the mini-series on AIDE, AIDE. This mini-series was about one, instantiating the AIDE database, making sure the package was installed, but instantiating the AIDE database, explaining some of the basic concepts you need to be aware of with AIDE, the Advanced Intrusion Detection Environment. And then now this video is a second one, and it really probably will be the last one. But this is about how do you use AIDE to compare the state of the system now versus the state of the system from before. As I mentioned before in the previous video, when you generate the AIDE database using the AIDE --init command, I'm not going to do it in this case, it generates an actual database file. So you'll find that file in var lib AIDE. And if you've done your job properly, you've taken aid.db.new.gz and renamed it to aid.db.gz. Once you've done that, your cron job, whether it's run out of root or out of some other account or out of the etc cron tab file, at whatever time you tell it, will execute the aid-check. The aid-check knows that the default database to use is based on the aid.conf file, where it references the dbdir/ basically referencing this directory, and then aid.db.gz file explicitly. All right, so we got caught up to that point. Let's get now to the present state of this video. So I have gone through in the last few minutes. Yes, the last video was made probably about half an hour ago or so. And I've made some files and deleted some files since the creation of the AIDE database. And I've even gone through and modified some files in different ways. And I wanted to show you that through these commands, we can figure out what kind of things have happened. All right. So if you want to do it manually, you just do aid-check. And I'm going to point something out here on the screen when it comes up here. All the references to A time in future and C time in future and M time in future, that is not normal for AIDE. Doesn't mean that my AIDE database is broken. It just means that my environment for making these videos complicates the explanation. But if you disregard all of these lines that say anything about A time, C time, and M time, the important part that I want to teach you about in terms of the output and the differences that the AIDE command will teach you and display to you will be coming up here in about a moment. Here we are. Okay, so at the very end of the output, basically there's a stanza like this, and you'll see a summary. Number of entries that were checked, number of entries that were added since the last time the AIDE database was updated, the number of times the files have been deleted, removed, since the last time the AIDE database has been updated. And this one could be tricky, added and removed, because you can take a file and rename it, and the system, the AIDE database environment, will see that that's considered to be a removal as well as an addition. So be aware of that. And then changed entries. So instead of changing a file from one name to another, it's considered to be seeing a removal of a name and then addition of a new name. All right. So I did go through, after I created the AIDE database, I went through and created some dummy files since the last video, created a new AIDE database since the last video. And then I went through and deliberately created yet another new file after creating that AIDE database. So that was a file I created after. And that way the aid-check just caught the difference between the last state that the database had captured and the present state with the system. So basically, since AIDE database has been updated, I have created this aid-test4.txt file. And then I have removed the file called aid-test3.txt. So this file is gone, it's deleted. So that accounts for the removed entries, just so you know. And the aid4.test was not renaming of this file to that file. I actually created a separate and independent file called aid-test4.txt. That's what this category is accounting for the count of 1. And then there's been 13 changes. Now, some of these I can account for. For example, the aid-test2.txt file was a change. The Anaconda KS config file had some attribute changes. The dummy file before aid.txt file also had some attribute changes. And then down further below, we can actually take a look and say, okay, AIDE2 test had a change, and here we go. The file still got the same name, but the SHA-512 checksum is different. And if you know anything about checksums, this basically is a hash on this side versus the hash over on the other side of these pipes. So the left side versus the right side of these three pipes implies that one whole hash changed to this whole new hash. So the content of the file changed. Not necessarily the timestamp on the file, the mode of the file, or so on. Just the content, just for this particular file. The Anaconda KS config file, it had a change, and the change was actually in the permissions, the standard POSIX Linux permissions. So I deliberately changed it from a read-write for root to read-write and read for root. And then on top of that, not only did I make the POSIX file changes, I also made file ACL changes. And you can see it was this on this side, and then I added my W French count to have at least readability of the file. So as W French, without being escalated to root privilege, I can read this file now. Now I'm going to get rid of that because that's not really a good security idea, but you will have to do something like that in case you ever work with a technology such as Splunk or something like that, where it says, hey, we don't want to change all the permissions and take full ownership of the file, but we do need to be able to read the file. That's one of the ways you would do it, is by using the file ACLs and making it on the user level by adding an explicit user or a group of users and so on to the file to make it a little bit more accessible. And finally, we getting down to this dummy file before aid.txt file. This one, we changed the POSIX Linux file permissions from just plain read-write to read-write, read-read, and then nothing else. Oh, sorry. You can see the attribute for user was changed to read-write. That part was good. Then we added the readability for the group, and we added the readability for the world or other field. All right, so then varlog bootlog had a size change. I'm not sure why, because I don't remember rebooting. btemp is another file that had some change on permissions. I did not do that deliberately, so I'm not sure what that's about. But we can see that we had truncated the read-write capability of whatever group that owns this file. So the rest of these files I wasn't targeting for any reason for you to be aware of, but you can see the size of the file here changed, the size of varlog messages changed, the size of varlog secure has changed, so on and so forth. Okay? And then again, finally, the hash of the AIDE database as it is in the current state. And when the AIDE check executed, basically this is just saying it took only 31 seconds to determine everything and generate the report. And that's it. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next video set.